Welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. Hey, you guys, welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. I'm really happy to be here with you today. And just please forgive me, my brain's a little discombobulated, and I'm going to do my best to try to make this helpful to you and also helpful to myself, because one of the things I know for sure is that everything that I say on this show is also for my ears, my mind, my heart, my well-being as well. At the end of the show, I always say, may we leave the people, the animals, ourselves, whatever, better than how you found it. That's me too. I'm always hoping. Oh, baby Jesus in a walnut shell, help me. I'm always trying to leave myself better than how I first found me as well. So I'm going to try to connect a couple of different thoughts that occurred to me over the last, I don't know, 24 hours. I'm going to start, of course, with a little bit of a story, and then hopefully some of the stuff that I share will be helpful to you as well in some way. So we had a death. We had a death in the family, and it wasn't a person that I had the opportunity to know or to meet, and yet I find myself just really deeply sad. So I've been thinking about this and a couple of the things that have occurred to me. And I want to share these thoughts with you because I think that they're relatable. I think that other people are going to be like, yeah, me too. But this is something, the thing that I'm going to talk about today, me personally, maybe it happens in other communities or whatever, in other groups of people. But for me, this isn't something that gets talked about. A lot, I think, in a big way or publicly. So I'm going to start with this idea, and like a little story, and then I'll get into what the hell I'm talking about. So I think I'm going to call this episode "The Missing Pieces." And as soon as I thought that word, oh, the missing pieces, right? It made me think of Shel Silverstein's book. So Shel Silverstein is a children's writer, but also his books have are for like adults as well. You know what I mean? And he had this book that I've thought about for a really long time. You might know him for like Where the Sidewalk Ends or The Giving Tree or whatever. But there's two books, I think. I think it's two books in this series. And the first one is called The Missing Piece. And The Missing Piece is kind of like this philosophical fable about this little, I call him this little guy, but he looks like a little Pac-Man. I think of him as like a little rock or a stone. And he's like, think of him as a circle who's missing a wedge. He's missing a piece of himself, like a piece of pie has been cut out, right? Like that kind of a shape. And it feels this lack, it feels this missing piece. And so it sets off on this journey to kind of find its perfect fitting missing piece. And of course, as it rolls around, it tries to like, pick up missing pieces. And some of the pieces are too big. Some of the pieces, are too small. Some of the pieces go in backwards. There'll be a piece that gets picked up and then whatever, right? And so it thinks it's finding this perfect missing piece. But once it gets that perfect missing piece, it starts to roll too fast and then it can't sing and do all the things it like to do anymore. It's a really interesting book about the journey, like being on the journey rather than trying to have this perfect outcome. And then I think there's a second piece that calls like The Missing Piece Meets the Big O or something like that. But really why I'm telling you this is there's this premise of like we're rolling around in the world, right? We're just going about our business. We're like trying to do this whole being human thing, this big ass experiment and life school that we're in. And a lot of us are walking around with like these big missing pieces. And it got me to thinking about this idea of trauma and how, like, these days, like trauma is everywhere. People are talking about it. People are using the word wrong. Oh, I was traumatized because they made my coffee wrong. No, no, you weren't traumatized by that. Sorry. But it's just a word that kind of gets used a lot and is thrown around a lot. But one of the things that we often talk about in trauma is what happened, these things that happened. But what gets like the conversation that I think that is often missing more often than not is talking about those missing pieces. So let me explain. So I remember when I had Linda Ty. Linda Ty is a brilliant teacher and speaker and storyteller, and she's a trauma therapist. She's about to start writing a book. She flies all over the world, educating people and doing psychodrama experience. Like she does so much. She's incredible, and I've been lucky enough to have her on my show twice. And I'll never forget the first time I had her on my show. Um, and you can just, if you want to listen to, I highly recommend going back and listening to those episodes. I think the first one was Our Bodies Hold Our Stories or something like that. But you can just find it, Karen Kenney Show, Google Linda Ty, Thai. And I'll never forget talking to her. And all of a sudden she said something that I had never, ever heard before. And she said, trauma isn't just what happened. It's not just all like the bad things that happened. So her quote was, trauma isn't just what happened. It's also what didn't happen that should have happened. I remember when I heard that, I was like, whoa, whoa, like, stop. Can you please repeat what you just said? Not only for my listeners, but like I needed to hear it again too. She said, trauma isn't just what happened, like, it's what didn't happen that should have happened. And I was like, oh my God. And it would just like hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like trauma isn't just the bad things that happen to us, it's also like the emotional support, the protection, the validation, the unshaming witnessing, the unconditional love, all of it that should have happened but didn't happen. So I think of it like this. So trauma doesn't only result from these bad, tragic, awful, abusive, whatever things that happen. Sometimes it's also a result of the good things that didn't happen. And so often we fixate on the events, right? Whether it was, I mean, there's a million ways we can get traumatized, right? It's like whether it's a war or you had to flee your country or somebody got killed or a parent died or there was a murder or a rape or physical, emotional, mental, sexual abuse. I mean, there's so many bad things that can happen. And we talk a lot about those things and we talk about the interventions to those things. We talk about the therapy for those things, the healing for those things, how you can go about like finding support groups or seeing a counselor or finding whatever, but so much less attention um, is paid to the very real and the deeply, what's the word I'm looking for? Significant, I guess, effects of what was missing. Like, yeah, this event happened, this thing happened. We can talk about those things, but it's like the things that were missing. Sometimes it's called like sometimes we'll say like, well, there was childhood neglect. I remember somebody talking to me about that, saying that I was they described me as being neglected. And I kept like looking at them like I always use this example. When a dog hears like a funny sound and they tilt their head, right? I was like, wait, what? Like neglected? Because my ideas of neglect, right? I was like, well, I had like a roof over my head. Like I was fed. There were like clothes on my back, like holy shit. So a lot of times neglect can be like difficult to see. And if you were a kid who like kind of grew up like feeling invisible or your needs weren't met or you weren't allowed to have needs or your distress or your fear or your whatever was not met with compassion or kindness or a listening ear or somebody to console you or comfort you or see you or support you or love you, right? Like that was a really big deal. And again, when we think about trauma, we're looking for the presence of these like really harmful experiences. But it's also, somebody once said it like this. I wrote this down. It says, neglect requires us to notice the absence of the necessary ones. It's like we have to notice the absence of the necessary experiences that we also needed. So they sometimes call this the trauma of omission, the trauma of omission. And they call it, there's a deficit that can happen in our childhood that really, really shapes us. And it shapes not only us, it shapes our behaviors, the way we think about ourselves in the world. It shapes our nervous system. So while they say active abuse or like, those big traumatic abuses in all the different ways, of course, it can cause direct harm, but the absence of those necessary experiences, like examples could be like being soothed when you were scared or worried or upset, or like, again, you were taught that that your feelings didn't matter. There was no unconditional love, like all those things, right? These things also create these invisible wounds. So the things that didn't happen that should have happened also leave a mark. They also have an impact. It's these missing pieces where maybe we didn't get the emotional support, the physical support, the nourishment that we needed, the nurturing that we needed, and this can have an impact. And the reason why I'm talking about this as we go back to the beginning of what I said is that, they're just we just had this loss. And I was like thinking about like, well, I didn't know this person. I didn't have a chance to meet them. Like, and I was so sad and I was like crying and it occurred to me that what I'm about to say next is tied to this idea of the missing pieces, the things that didn't happen that should have happened. And now I realize the grief that I'm feeling is for the things that now won't happen because that person is no longer in the world. And it's like, there have been so many times, maybe you can relate to this, but there have been so many times where I've been out driving or in the car with my sweetie or whatever it is. And let's say it's the holidays, it's around the holidays, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, right? So it gets dark a little bit earlier. So of course, I prefer a high sun, high light, high summer, right? Like that's my time of year. But when the colder months, the darker months start to show up, some of the nice things that help me to get through it, and I actually don't have seasonal depressive disorder or seasonal affective disorder, SADS. I don't have it, but I crave the light, right? I know this, but the reason why I'm saying this is a lot of times you drive around in neighborhoods at night and you'll see the lights on, right? Around the holiday. You see that warm glow coming from the inside and you see all the holiday lights up and you see like 1,000 cars like parked in the driveway or along the road because everybody's getting together and everybody's, enjoying the holidays together. And there is a part of me that sees that and what I feel like for so long I was like, why do I get teary-eyed whenever I see that? And yes, there's a part of me that is like, I love that. I love knowing that families are getting together. I love that it looks so warm and cozy. It's nostalgic, it's beautiful, whatever. But I also realize there's a part of me in there that has like this longing. There's like this desire for that kind of like connection with family or, just that scene. And who's to say it could be a shit show inside that house, right? Everybody could be drunk and fighting. Who knows? Right? Always it's the outside looking in. But we have this idea in our mind of what it could be like. And I was thinking about this. So we sometimes think of this sadness or this longing or this grief that we're feeling. A lot of times it's like for the things that we wanted that never happened for us. You can think of it like people call it different things, but you can call it like the never life. The never life is the life that didn't happen or the things that didn't happen, those missing pieces that didn't happen. And I think Cheryl Strayed, the writer Cheryl Strayed, she calls it the quote unquote the sister life, right? So think of it like the path you never went down, the life you dreamed of having that didn't happen for whatever reason. It just didn't happen, right? It never came to be. Your ideas, your dreams, your thoughts of how it should be or you wanted it to be or whatever, it didn't happen. It's the thing that we we hoped for, or the thing that we thought about, or the thing that we dreamed about, or maybe for some people it's even like what they expected to happen, but wouldn't happen, didn't happen, couldn't happen, and now won't happen. And the never life is a deep grief. It's like, and it could be about anything. It could be about your career. Like, oh, I always thought I was going to be, right? I've seen this happen to people who thought that they were going to be, like professional athletes, people who thought that they would be in a different place by now, whether it's in corporate or in their career, or somebody who's an artist of some kind, a musician, a singer, a whatever, a writer, right? It's the things that didn't get explored, the things that I would say didn't get their time in the sun, the things that didn't come to fruition. Maybe it's the relationship ended, there was a divorce, or you never had kids, weren't able to have kids, or I mean, the reality of it is that it can show up in so many different forms, and it's really individual, right? Like any grief that I might be feeling about those missing pieces, or about the never life, the life that didn't happen, or the sister life. Cheryl Strayed says that a sister life is like the life you didn't live but could have lived if you had made different choices, or there had been different circumstances. She says, quote, well, I'm quoting, but I don't know if it's her exact quote, but it says it's the version of you that exists in theory but not in reality. And I think a lot of us as adults, we sometimes get confused about, like, why am I feeling this way? Why did that picture, that song, that sound, that scene, right? Like sometimes I mean, mine can be very obvious, right? My mother, being killed when I was 12. Like I'll sometimes see a commercial or whatever, and there's a mother and daughter doing things together, and I just start crying, and I'm like, oh my God, because you're thinking about, like, for me, it's the things that won't happen. And when I think about this person who just died, it's like, now the things that won't happen, I'll never get to meet them. They'll never get to be a moment of fill in the blank, connection, knowing that person, reconciliation for what was possible, for the things that never happened, that didn't happen, and now can't happen, you know? And so like I was saying, we'll see these, we'll hear a snippet of a song or a smell or whatever, and we have these feelings that well up inside of us. And it's like, yeah, like 57-year-old me can totally rationalize it and be like, well, you don't need those things. You have a life you love, right? You have your sweetie, you have all your furry kids, you do work that you love, you have friends that you love, et cetera, right? And yet there's a part of you that there's a kind of grief and pain that the quote unquote never life like brings up, because you're really aware of what's now missing. I think about it. It's like my mother didn't get to see me, graduate from like junior high and high school. She didn't get to see me go to college and graduate from college. Didn't get to see me start my own business or get married, or like all million and one things that have happened since she's been gone, you know, all these years, like 45 years. It's just crazy. And there's a loneliness that comes to this kind of grief, I think, the missing piece grief, that nobody ever really talks about. Because I get it, we're kind of told, like, focus on what you do have. And I 100% agree with that. Like, we want to be grateful for what we do have. We want to be grateful for all the dreams that did come true, all the life that did happen. And I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about those invisible pieces, those missing pieces, the longing that's still there, you know? And I mean, in death can feel like this very final thing. It's like, oh, well, now this is never going to happen, and sometimes we find out more about people, we get to know them through talking with others, or seeing their home, or doing research or whatever. And yeah, we can still find out and try to fill in some of those gaps, fill in some of those missing pieces. But there's also going to be this, like, the longing for the unknown, right? This thing that now it's just not ever going to happen. And I just wanted to talk about that, because it can this kind of feeling, this kind of grief, call it, And those kinds of traumas that we talked about earlier, they can really easily be overlooked because they're kind of unseen. And people will just be able to just focus on the good stuff, focus on what you do have, right? Yes, and we want to be able to kind of give voice, I think, to the never life, to the sister life, to the things that now, first of all, to the things that didn't happen that should have happened, but also to the things that now won't happen, those missing pieces that are never going to be able to get filled in the way that you had hoped or dreamed or wanted. And it's a real mourning process, right? It's like, first of all, there's grief, right? And when I was thinking about this today, like, why are you so sad? And I was like, okay, well, again, I can rationalize and justify that new grief, it stirs up old grief. I was like, yes. I'm like, that's true. So I get it. And I was just like, oh, I realized like I'm really, really sad now for the things that are never going to happen. Um, and so the advice that I gave myself, that if you find yourself also experiencing this, again, whether you're going through a miscarriage, or you haven't been able to get pregnant, or, again, your relationship ended, or your career took a turn, you got fired, or you didn't get the job you wanted, or the book didn't sell, or whatever, right? You want to buy land and you want to build a house. Like there's 1,001 ways that we can find ourselves with missing pieces. So I was like, okay, number one, what do I want to do with this? I said, well, we're not going to push it away, right? We're not going to abandon ourselves, right? I just did an episode about that a few episodes ago about not abandoning ourselves. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to abandon myself. I'm going to sit with this and I'm going to be with these feelings because I want to feel these feelings. And then the other thing is one of the missing pieces of my childhood was tenderness and mercy. I don't think I got enough of it. I don't think many of us, a lot of us, like mass holy blue collar kids, didn't get enough of it. It was we're the whole suck it up and stuff it down kids. I'm like, all right, be gentle with yourself. It doesn't have to make sense. You feel how you feel. It doesn't have to make sense. So let's just be with it. Let's be gentle with ourselves. Let's be like tender and merciful and compassionate with our feelings. And then, slowly, and I'm not saying it happens quickly. I mean, I can turn things over pretty quickly. I've had a lot of experience at this, but it doesn't mean that I always should. Do you know what I mean? So I'm trying to give myself grace, and I'm trying to give myself that space to like sift through the ashes of the never life, the thing that is burned down with this death. So it's like, okay, being in the acceptance of it, moving towards that acceptance. Sometimes it will come quickly, right? Sometimes it takes some time. And then after that, for me, it's always like that question. This is me. I'm not saying this is how you should do it, but like step one, let's be with it, be with your feelings, sit with it, spend some time with it, be gentle. Number two, be gentle with yourself, compassionate, be tender, be merciful, like nurture and nourish those younger parts of you that are doing the grieving, that didn't get what they needed and now are thinking about the things that now won't happen or can't happen or didn't happen or whatever. And we move towards acceptance. And part of the acceptance, there might be a lot of different practices in there, right? Maybe you journal, maybe you do whatever, right? Maybe you write it down, maybe you seek therapy, whatever the thing is. But we're moving towards the acceptance of this is how it is. A lot of times our suffering is coming from the resistance to what actually is and what happened. So we're, being with that. And then the next step is the one that I always call now what? Yes, these things happened. Yes, this is the new reality, whether we like it, don't like it, confused by it, deeply in mourning, grief, whatever. And then for me, it's always like, now what? And it's another way. Like, this is like, because what happens is when we're in the missing piece part, it's all of the what ifs. It's all of the what ifs. So what could have been, what didn't happen, what we wished happened. It's all those, what if that? What if I had done that? What if I didn't say this? What if I didn't do this? It's like all of that, the never life stuff, right? Um, but at some point we get to focus on, call it new pieces or the new dream, or now that this is how it is, now what? What can I focus on now? Like, where can I put my energy now? Or how can I reconcile this now? Or whatever the thing is. But we get to move on. We get to move. And that doesn't mean you get over it. It doesn't mean you just go like, move on, get over it. It's not that. It's like, when I think about, we were outside the other day down in the yard, and we have these milkweed plants. I didn't even know they were milkweed. Hello, city kid. Like a few years ago, we had these two rando like little flowers, tall flowers, and I took a picture and I put it on the internet because yeah, I know I can Google it, but I like to ask my smarty pants friends. So I put it on Facebook or something. I was like, hey, nature people, like gardeners, what the hell out of these things? And everybody wrote back, it's milkweed. You're so lucky. The butterflies love them, blah, blah, blah. Well, I can tell you that over the last 2 years, there's now like a shit ton of them. And we're just kind of giving up a portion of our yard to them because we love the butterflies. So we're like, okay. Um, but when we were down in the yard looking at them, that was a little side quest. I apologize. And I'm back. But my sweetie said, look at them. They're all leaning towards the sun. And they were where the sun was in the sky. The plants had all kind of like turned and they were like how sunflowers do. And they were like leaning towards it. And when we get to this last step here, the new dreams, the now what, that to me is like my leaning towards the light. It's like I'm not going to run from the dark, but I'm going to drag this darkness, these feelings that I have, and I'm going to bring them into the light. That to me is like how I think of the healing process. I always say, I don't want to sit in the shitty diaper. I don't want to sit in the pain and the remorse and the regret and all the stuff. It's not that I can't be with it. I personally don't believe in being with it any longer than I need to. Like it's more like and it doesn't mean that it doesn't still flash in my mind or things don't come up. I'm not like wiping my hands and tying these things into neat little bows. I don't think life is like that. I think there's always going to be like residual grief. I think that's just the way it is, right? Life is intense. A lot of things happen. But what I'm saying is at some point we turn back towards hope and we start to turn towards what could be, right? So instead of that never life or that sister life or those missing pieces, we start to create the new life, a different life. I can't always say if it's going to be better or not better, but there's still so much to look forward to. And so I hope this has been helpful for you in some way. I mean, for me, it was really about just acknowledging that there's these lonely kinds of grief about grieving the life that didn't happen and now can't happen, right? But it's also, right, that trauma, because trauma is not just the bad things that happened, it's also the good things that didn't happen that should have happened. And it could be everything from like, if you're a little kid and you're a child of like divorced parents and one parent is supposed to pick you up on certain days of the week, but then they would just ghost you, or they were like deficit dads or missing moms or whatever the thing was, and they didn't keep their word, or they always let you down, or whatever it was. There's really real and significant effects to the things that are missing. So my hope for you guys, is that you start to find those missing pieces within yourselves and within your hopefully loving and fruitful and what's the word I'm looking for? Reciprocal relationships, healthy relationships where the love you give is also the love you receive. This is how we heal. We're not islands. We don't heal on I mean, not that we don't have the capacity. Our bodies can heal on their own a lot of times. And I think a lot of times we can do the work to heal, quote unquote, ourselves. But I also think that it doesn't happen in a vacuum. I do think we need each other. And I do think this is one of the greatest gifts of like good family and good friends, is that we help each other on our healing journey. And sometimes it's just somebody's very present presence, somebody who can really be with you, who really sees you, can listen and can support you and love you. So if you are in a season of mourning the never life, or if you are in a season of mourning the things that should have happened that didn't happen, if you didn't have an unshaming witness, if you didn't have somebody to protect you, if you didn't have family members to step in to stop it, if you had people who everybody just turned a blind eye, 1,001 ways where we harm and hurt each other. My heart is with you, and I'm sorry, and I'm hoping that that, I always say this, like, and to my example of this person who I didn't get to know who died, and I'm grieving that, it's like I don't have to know you, quote unquote, personally, like we may have not have met in real life, but I still care about you and I still love you. And if you're out there and you feel alone, just know that there's another person in the world who holds you in my thoughts, even if again I've never met you or whatever. My love extends to you wherever you are in the world. And I hope that you can sit with yourself and be gentle with yourself and your feelings. And as time allows and tools are available, and you have hopefully a soft, gentle listening ear, that there's an acceptance to the things that have been missing. And now we can go about to finding and filling our own missing pieces in a beautiful and loving way. So that's what I have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I super duper appreciate you. I never take for granted that you're spending some time with me, whether we're in the car together or walking your dog or out in nature or wherever you're listening to this or watching this. Just thank you for spending some time with me. I really appreciate it. As always, just go to my website, KarenKenney.com. If you want to get on my mailing list, I'd love to have you join us. If you want to find out what kind of shenanigans I'm up to with Right Club and yoga classes and Thai yoga body work and the nest and working and mentoring or coaching, if that's your thing, you can find me, KarenKenney.com. And just thank you for being a part of the Karen Kenney Show, our little community. I really appreciate it. Okay, wherever you go out in the world, may you leave the animals and the planet and the other people in yourself better than how you first found it. Wherever you go, may you and your presence and your energy and your love and even your missing pieces, right? The parts of us that we are slowly, I always say gradually, but inevitably healing. May it be a blessing. Bye.